AITA for refusing to be her free driver. I bought myself a car and now my sister thinks she can use me and ask me to drive her husband and her children for free although she has a car. I am a 25-year-old guy, and a few months ago, after years of budgeting, sacrificing, and saying no to almost every impulse purchase, I finally bought myself a car. It is nothing fancy, a 2019 Honda Civic, but it is reliable, clean, and it is completely mine. No cosigner, no loans from family, no borrowing. Just years of grinding, saving, and watching everyone else post their new purchases while I quietly focused on my goal. I live about 20 minutes away from my older sister, Hannah, who is 32. She is married to Matt, who is 34, and they have 2 young kids, a 4-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl. I like to think I have always had a good relationship with Hannah. We were never best friends, but we respected each other. I was genuinely happy for her when she got married, when she had her first kid, and again when she had her second. I even helped them move into their current house a few years ago, spending weekends hauling furniture without a word of complaint. So when I bought my car, I expected maybe a "congrats" or a "proud of you, little brother." Instead, Hannah saw it as an announcement that I had signed up for the unofficial role of her personal, free driver. It started almost immediately. Barely a week after I got the car, she texted me asking if I could drive her to a hair appointment. It was on a Wednesday afternoon. I work full-time, Monday through Friday. I politely told her I could not. She replied, "No worries," but 2 days later asked if I could swing by daycare and pick up her kids because she was swamped. Again, I had to decline. I had errands to run, my own schedule to keep. At first, I thought it was just bad timing, maybe a weird coincidence. I tried not to read into it. But then came more requests. Birthday parties. Grocery trips. Taking her kids to playdates. Shopping at malls across town. Dentist appointments. Random errands she did not even bother to explain. Sometimes she would not even ask in a normal way. Instead, she would text, "You free for some extra driving practice today? Could really use a lift to Target." At first, I was just confused. They have a perfectly good SUV, only a few years old. Matt is fully capable of driving. Their car is sitting right there in the driveway every time I visit. So one day, after another casual, "Hey, pick me up at 2, text, I replied, telling her point blank that she had her own car, and Matt could drive her if she needed help. That is when the real weirdness began. She answered like I was the crazy one, telling me that sure, of course Matt could drive her, but she thought it would be good for me to get more driving experience. She said she was just trying to help me, that she was thinking of me, that new drivers like me needed time behind the wheel in different conditions, with passengers, on longer trips, and especially with kids. She framed it as though she was doing me a giant favor by asking for free rides all the time. I was honestly stunned. I reminded her that I drive to work every day. I run errands. I drive through city traffic, construction detours, rush hour congestion, pouring rain. I am not some teenager who just got his learner's permit and needs practice parking in a grocery store lot. I am a fully licensed, competent adult who bought his own damn car. But it did not matter how clearly I explained that. She kept trying. Every few days, another text would pop up. "Hey, thought you might want some more practice. Meet me at 3, or family mall trip today. Great opportunity for you to get some longer drive time." It was endless. If I said no, she would follow up with these patronizing little comments like, "Just trying to help you, you know," or "You really should not turn down opportunities to get better at driving with passengers." It got to the point where just seeing her name pop up on my phone would stress me out. It was like she genuinely believed she had created this brilliant, unselfish system where I would drive her around endlessly for my own good. Meanwhile, she sat in the passenger seat, got her errands done, kept her kids entertained, and treated me like I was some underqualified intern getting free training. The most frustrating part was that she refused to even acknowledge the reality that she and Matt had their own vehicle and that she could drive herself literally anywhere she needed to go. It was not a question of being stranded. It was about convenience. About having someone else cater to her schedule without her lifting a finger. One afternoon, after she sent yet another, "You driving us to the park today?" text, completely assuming I would say yes, I decided enough was enough. I told her flat out that my car was mine. I had worked too hard to finally have some independence only to have it hijacked under the guise of gaining experience. I told her I was not interested, that I had my own life to live, my own responsibilities, my own commitments. That she needed to plan her errands using her own resources, not mine. She tried again, giving me that fake sweet tone, saying, "I just think you are being stubborn. This would really help you grow." I answered, "I am growing just fine, thanks. Without needing to be your free chauffeur." Since then, the vibe between us has been strained. She still sends occasional texts like nothing happened, asking if I am free for a quick trip or want to get some bonus miles in, but I just ignore them or reply with a short, firm no. I have stopped making excuses. I no longer explain or justify. I just say no. And honestly, it feels good. It feels good to protect my time, my boundaries, and the car that I worked so hard for. It feels good not to fall for the emotional manipulation disguised as help. It feels good not to let someone else twist my hard work into something they feel entitled to. So, am I the asshole for refusing to be my sister's free driver? Update 1. It turned out Hannah was not ready to back off. I had thought that after shutting her down clearly, firmly, and repeatedly, she would eventually get the hint and stop treating me like her personal unpaid Uber driver. I genuinely believed that if I made myself clear enough, she would have no choice but to respect my boundaries. But no. Hannah decided that if she could not guilt-trip me into it herself, she would rally back up. I first noticed something was off when my phone started buzzing more than usual one morning. A call from Mom, a text from Rachel, a missed call from Emily, a voicemail from Jake. It was like they had coordinated some kind of family intervention overnight. I listened to the voicemail from my mom first. Her voice was syrupy sweet, the kind of tone she usually reserves for when she is trying to convince someone to do something they really do not want to do. She said, "Honey, Hannah is just trying to help you become more independent. She knows you are a little nervous still, and she only wants the best for you. Maybe you should accept her offer sometimes. It is good practice." I stared at my phone in disbelief. Nervous? I have been driving myself to and from work every single day through some of the worst traffic in the state. I have navigated highway pileups, construction detours that turn 5-minute drives into 30-minute puzzles, and downtown streets where finding parking felt like winning the lottery. Nervous was the last thing I was. Before I could even process that, a text from Rachel popped up. She said, "Maybe just do it once a week to be nice. It would not kill you. Plus, it is good for you. More experience never hurts." Rachel, who has not driven more than 20 minutes outside her neighborhood in the last 5 years, was now offering me unsolicited advice about gaining experience. Then Jake chimed in. "Bro, it is not that deep. She is just trying to help you practice. You are overthinking it. Chill." And the cherry on top. A message from Matt himself, the husband who somehow never seemed available to drive his own wife around but was suddenly an expert on my personal development needs. He said, "Hey, man, Hannah really wants you to get more comfortable on the road. We thought this would be good for you. Hope you reconsider." I felt like I was living in an alternate reality. How had refusing to become someone else's unpaid chauffeur turned into a full-blown family controversy? How was it that every single one of them had bought into the bizarre idea that Hannah's constant, selfish demands were actually selfless gestures of goodwill toward me? It was not even about driving at this point. It was about control. It was about Hannah deciding that I should do what she wanted, when she wanted, and that if I dared to push back, she would just enlist the rest of the family to pressure me until I caved. I spent the next few days fielding calls, texts, and guilt trips. Emily sent a long text about how family supports each other, how Hannah was just trying to build my confidence, and how it was important to be humble and accept help even when it was uncomfortable. My mom followed up with a group chat message about how proud she was that our family was always there for each other, and how disappointed she was when people refused to accept that support. It would have been laughable if it had not been so exhausting. Every time I opened my phone, it was another reminder that somehow I had become the villain for wanting to use my own car for my own life without becoming an unpaid taxi service. At first, I tried reasoning with them. I explained over and over again that I drive daily. That I manage my own life perfectly fine. That I have no problem handling traffic, passengers, long drives, city streets, or whatever other imaginary hurdles they thought I needed to conquer. I told them that needing more practice was not the issue because there was no issue. I told them that agreeing to drive Hannah around would not be a learning opportunity for me, it would simply be me sacrificing my time, gas, and energy for her convenience. But it was like talking to a brick wall. They were too wrapped up in Hannah's narrative to hear anything I said. To them, I was being stubborn, ungrateful, immature. Eventually, I stopped replying to most of the messages. I realized that nothing I said would change their minds because they were not actually listening. They were trying to wear me down. They wanted me to doubt myself. They wanted me to start wondering if I really was being unreasonable, if maybe I was being selfish for wanting to live my own life without being tied to Hannah's every whim. But deep down, I knew the truth. I knew that setting boundaries does not make you selfish. I knew that protecting your time and your hard-earned independence does not make you ungrateful. I knew that just because someone wraps manipulation in flowery language and good intentions does not make it any less manipulative. So I made a decision. I would not argue anymore. I would not explain myself anymore. I would not justify or defend or rationalize. I would simply live my life, drive my car where I needed to go, and politely but firmly decline any attempts to hijack my freedom. Because at the end of the day, I do not need extra driving practice. I do not need Hannah's help. I do not need to be guilt-tripped into giving up my time, energy, and hard-earned independence just to make someone else's life a little easier. I just do not want to be taken advantage of, and certainly not under the guise of helping me. Update 2. After another exhausting week of dodging calls, ignoring passive-aggressive texts, and sidestepping relentless guilt-tripping messages, I finally realized something that should have been obvious much earlier. Being passive was not going to solve this. Being polite, being quiet, hoping they would just get tired and move on, none of that was working. If anything, my silence was being seen as weakness, as a soft, no, that simply needed a little more pushing to turn into a yes. Hannah was interpreting every boundary I tried to quietly set as temporary resistance, a minor inconvenience that could eventually be worn down by persistence and family pressure. Worse than that, the rest of the family, most of whom had no real idea what was actually happening, had started falling into line behind her narrative. It was like they had all agreed that my independence was some collective family project that needed fixing, and Hannah had been elected the leader of the campaign to get it done. Every day became a minefield. I would wake up to multiple notifications, check my phone half dreading what new argument or guilt trip was waiting for me. Every time I ignored a call or left a text unread, I would feel this weight pressing down on me, this mounting pressure that I should do something, that if I just gave in a little, maybe the noise would finally stop. But deep down, I knew it would not. Giving in would not end it, it would only encourage more. It felt like living inside a permanent low-level argument that never fully exploded but never truly went away either. There was no peace, just a constant buzzing tension around every interaction, every silence, every ignored message. I realized that if I kept allowing this dynamic, if I kept hoping it would resolve itself without confrontation, I would be stuck in this toxic cycle forever. It would not just be about rides anymore. It would be about everything. My time, my energy, my choices, all being treated like community property just because I happen to be related to them. So I decided to take control of the situation. I decided to be direct, no hesitation, no half measures. The first step was calling Matt. I figured that if there was any chance of breaking through the wall of entitlement, it might be through him. Maybe he would see reason where Hannah refused. Maybe if he truly understood how ridiculous and disrespectful this whole thing had become, he would finally put a stop to it. I called him after a long day at work, too drained to even think about heading home yet, sitting in the parking lot with my car idling around me like a little cocoon of quiet. I spoke plainly, without sugarcoating or softening the truth. I told him that I had bought my car for myself, with my own money, after years of hard work and sacrifice. I told him that my Civic was not purchased to serve as their backup vehicle or their family chauffeur. I explained, clearly, that I drove every single day, not occasionally, not timidly, but consistently and confidently. Commuting to work, running errands, managing my own life like the capable adult that I was. I told him I did not need driving practice, like I was some 16-year-old who had just barely gotten a learner's permit. I was tired of the guilt trips, tired of the fake concern being used like a shield to hide selfish motives, tired of pretending that what they were doing was anything but a blatant attempt to make their lives easier at my expense. At first, Matt tried to weasel out of it. He gave me the same tired line about how they just thought it might help me feel more comfortable, that it was all about support, about family looking out for each other. He said it in that bland, casual voice people use when they know they are lying but want to make it sound harmless. I refused to let him skate past it. I pressed harder, calmly but firmly, refusing to let him change the subject or twist my words. Finally, he admitted the truth. They just thought it would be easier for them if they had someone to help run around for them. Hearing him say it out loud, even in that offhand, dismissive tone, made my blood boil in a way that no passive-aggressive text ever could. It confirmed everything I had already suspected but had been trying to give them the benefit of the doubt about. I told him, voice tight with frustration, that it was deeply insulting to pretend that they were somehow doing me a favor by asking me to waste my gas, my time, and my energy catering to their errands and appointments. This was not about my driving experience. It was not about helping me. It was about them. It was about what made their lives easier, and they were more than happy to cloak it in fake altruism if it meant I would be easier to manipulate. I told him it was not about the gas money. It was not about the few hours wasted here and there. It was about the principle. About respect. About the fact that I had worked brutally hard to carve out a small corner of independence for myself, and I was not about to let anyone, even family, treat that accomplishment like it was just a new tool for their convenience. For the first time in the entire mess, Matt went silent. It was not the silence of agreement, but it was silence nonetheless. A crack in the constant wall of excuses and deflections I had been dealing with for weeks. He awkwardly muttered that it was not a big deal. And that was it. That was the exact moment something inside me snapped. It was a big deal. It was a massive deal. It was about standing up for myself when nobody else would. It was about refusing to let the sacrifices I had made, the endless nights spent budgeting and saving and planning, be reduced to a convenient asset for someone else's errands. It was about not allowing guilt or family pressure to trap me in a life where my time, my energy, my accomplishments were seen as something others could lay claim to whenever they felt like it. I ended the call clearly, without anger but without softness either. I made it crystal clear that I would not be accepting any more requests, that I would not be playing along with the facade of favors. They had a car. They had two capable adults. They could manage their lives without me. I was done. Before I could second-guess myself, before any lingering guilt could creep in, I opened my phone and typed out a long, clear message to Hannah. I wrote it carefully, choosing every word, because I wanted there to be no loopholes, no ambiguity, no room for misinterpretation. I told her that while I appreciated her supposed concern for my driving skills, it was obvious that this was never about helping me. It was about getting free rides. I told her that I was proud of what I had achieved, proud of buying my own car, proud of building my independence, proud of taking control of my own life, and that I would not let anyone, not even family, undermine that. I explained that I would no longer be answering calls or texts about last-minute rides, that I would no longer entertain the idea that this was for my benefit. I told her plainly that if she kept pushing, I would have no choice but to distance myself because protecting my peace, my independence, and my time was more important than entertaining someone else's entitlement. I hit send and sat back in my seat, staring at the dashboard for a long moment. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, I felt a genuine sense of relief. Like I had finally stopped trying to hold up the weight of everyone else's expectations and just let it fall. Of course, Hannah did not take it gracefully. Within minutes, my phone lit up with a flood of messages, each one more manipulative and frustrating than the last. Accusations of overreacting, claims that she was just trying to help, snide remarks about me being dramatic, guilt trips wrapped in flowery language about family loyalty, fake concern about my stubbornness. It was endless. An unrelenting barrage of emotional manipulation, dressed up as caring. Each message was a fresh wave of anger and exhaustion, the familiar weight settling on my chest again. And it hit me, so clearly it was almost physical, there was no point in trying to explain. No amount of calm explanations, no perfectly worded boundary, no logical discussion would make her respect a decision that inconvenienced her even slightly. So I did what I should have done a long time ago. I blocked her number. Not forever. Just temporarily. Just long enough to clear my head, reclaim my peace, and remind myself that my life, my time, my freedom were my own, not hers, not Matt's, not anyone else's. As soon as I hit the block button, it felt like an enormous weight lifted off my shoulders. Like someone had finally shut off an alarm that had been blaring non-stop in the background of my life. I sat there in my car, finally free, finally able to breathe again, finally able to drive wherever I wanted without feeling like I owed anyone an explanation. Best decision ever. Update 3. It took about 2 weeks, but eventually the rest of the family started catching on that I was dead serious. I think at first they had assumed I was just being moody, that if they gave it a little time and kept prodding at the right angles, I would crack. I would cave. I would come crawling back with apologies and maybe even offer to drive Hannah around as some sort of peace offering. That was their miscalculation. I stopped replying to every manipulative text. I left passive-aggressive messages on read. I did not justify, did not argue, did not explain myself any further. At family gatherings, I kept my interactions polite but distant, the way you would with distant relatives you barely knew. I smiled, made small talk, asked safe questions about work, vacations, kids, but I never waded into deeper waters. I would not give them openings. I would not invite the drama. And it threw them off completely. They were ready for a fight. They were ready for a full-blown family spectacle, the kind where voices get raised and tears get shed and everyone has to pick sides. But I was not playing their game. I refused to give them the reaction they wanted. I was calm, controlled, and immovable. They could not argue with someone who refused to step into the ring. At our next family dinner, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife, even though everyone was pretending things were normal. Conversations were a little too bright, a little too forced. Everyone was waiting, consciously or not, for the next round of drama. And right on cue, Hannah could not resist. We were all helping ourselves to dessert, plates clinking, kids chattering in the background, that low hum of casual family noise, when she decided to make her move. In a voice just loud enough to carry across the table, she said, "Some people just do not appreciate when their family is only trying to help them be better drivers," and she gave me a pointed, exaggerated look that could have cut glass. A few of my siblings chuckled awkwardly, more out of reflex than anything else, glancing between us like spectators hoping for a show. The air around the table tensed, the way it does when everyone knows something is about to blow up. But I did not take the bait. I did not roll my eyes, I did not snap back, I did not even raise my voice. I simply set my fork down, looked her squarely in the eye, and said calmly, "I appreciate help when it is actually helpful. Not when it is self-serving." Then, without giving her a second more of my attention, I turned to my cousin sitting next to me and started talking about something completely unrelated, a new movie that had just come out, a hiking trail I wanted to try, anything but Hannah. I left her standing there, holding her own passive-aggressive grenade with no explosion to satisfy her. And that, more than any argument, seemed to do the most damage. Because it showed everyone, including her, that she did not have power over me anymore. I was done performing for her. I was done engaging. A few days later, something I honestly never expected happened. Matt reached out again. This time, though, it was different. His tone was different. Instead of deflecting or minimizing, he actually apologized. He admitted that after stepping back and thinking about everything, he realized they had been wrong to push the driving experience angle so hard. He said it was unfair to expect me to chauffeur them around for free just because it was convenient for them. He even admitted that pretending it was somehow for my own good had been manipulative, even if they had not fully realized it at the time. He said he would talk to Hannah about respecting boundaries better going forward. For the first time since this whole ridiculous saga had started, it felt like someone actually understood. It did not erase the weeks of frustration and resentment, but it was something. It was a sliver of acknowledgement that I had not been the crazy, selfish, ungrateful one in the room this whole time. Shockingly, after that, Hannah finally backed off. She did not call. She did not text asking for last-minute favors. She did not drop passive-aggressive, driving practice, invitations into group chats. It was like the entire campaign had just evaporated overnight. There is still an awkwardness between us. It hangs in the air whenever we are in the same room, this stiff, uncomfortable distance that neither of us really acknowledges. She still acts like she is waiting for me to apologize to her, to admit that I had overreacted or been unreasonable, but she will be waiting a long time. That apology is never coming. Because the truth is, I am not sorry. I am not sorry for setting boundaries. I am not sorry for protecting my time and my peace. I am not sorry for refusing to let guilt and family pressure mold my life into something that served everyone else's needs at the expense of my own. I am fine with the awkwardness. I would rather have a little tension than live in resentment and exhaustion, constantly sacrificing my energy to make someone else's life easier while mine got harder. And then came the final kicker, the thing that sealed everything for me with a neat little bow. About a month after all of this finally died down, Jake and I were hanging out, grabbing a drink after work, when he casually mentioned something that nearly made me laugh out loud. Apparently, Hannah and Matt had quietly hired a part-time nanny/driver to help with errands and daycare pickups when they were too busy. They could afford to pay someone the entire time. The money was never the issue. They just preferred to lean on me because I was family, and they assumed I would not say no. Because asking your little brother to burn his gas, his time, and his sanity was just easier than admitting you needed real help and paying for it. When I heard that, any lingering guilt I might have felt evaporated completely. There was no misunderstanding here. No genuine concern for my well-being. No real belief that I needed help becoming a better driver. It had always been about convenience. About entitlement. About assuming that my hard work, my independence, my personal victories were somehow available for them to tap into whenever they pleased, simply because we shared DNA. Yeah. Not feeling guilty even a little bit. Family should respect boundaries just as much as anyone else. Sometimes the people closest to you will test those boundaries the hardest, and it is on you to hold the line.